Hey guys, Michaela here, still in Costa Rica, hanging out in the cloud forest. Got a nice sunset going here. And it's been a little bit since I checked in, and I wanted to go into some of that here. I think one of my superpowers is my vulnerability. I share the real stuff that's going on with me, both here and as a therapist, to help facilitate healing for others. And one of the ways I believe that we alchemize our suffering is to use it to help others heal or use it to help another person who's suffering. So I have struggled with depression my whole life. It's genetic, it's in my paternal side, pretty heavy. It's really just depression. It's not just depression. I also have CPTSD, which sometimes mimics borderline symptoms. But that really only shows up in like romantic relationships. I tend to choose avoidant partners sometimes, and that activates all of that. But otherwise, that doesn't really show up. And I think that that's something that we over time outgrow, and we can learn to manage it much, much better. And I'm 44 now, so I'm pretty good at it. Like if I'm in a situation where my symptoms are being triggered, that's probably a good sign that that's not a good relationship for me. So anyway, but the depression piece of it is a constant. I was told when I was young that I'll always need medication for it. So I rebelled and refused for a long time. And then I want to say mid 30s, I decided to, or early 30s maybe, go back on medication. And it was very helpful. I'm a proponent of medication because it's a technology that can help us. If we had liver issues, if we had, if we were anemic, if all these other things, we would take our medicine. But for some reason, the mental health piece of it gets this heavy stigma. And I don't really care what anybody else thinks about it. I'm going to use the meds when I need them. And for my clients, I also advise that, really I send people for medication to help stop the overthinking. It's the chatter that just always going. And for me personally, when my belief, it's a hypothesis, it's not proven data, but I think that the serotonin is a gatekeeper for that kind of stuff. And when you're low, it opens and this stuff can flood in. And so for me, it looks like a lot of like when I was at the waterfalls recently, I'm climbing these waterfalls, and every step I'm like, don't break your ankle, because then this person's going to have to carry you out from this huge place or this huge journey that you just took to. It wasn't huge, but it would have been hell if he would have had to take me back up the hill that we came down if something happened to me. And I'm in Costa Rica and I don't have insurance. And could I afford if something happened? What would happen to my animals? And just all the fucking time about everything. And another issue is that I will get upset about little things. Now that hasn't been so bad. Coming to my point, I in Mexico decided to come off of all my medications, to include thyroid, which they say you can't do. Now this is not advice for anybody to come off their medication. Please do not take it that way. If you're going to do this, you need to do it responsibly. It's your choice, it's your body, but do it well and with your provider. Okay, that's the disclaimer here. So I responsibly titrated off of all my medications, and a lot of them were psychotropic meds. I had an antidepressant, Effexor. I had propranolol for, like, if I get triggered, or if something, even like someone slams with the brakes, or I see a cop even, or something like that, my blood pressure will shoot up and my whole system's like, ah. And so the propranolol helps to dampen that down. Buspirone, which is a fantastic med. It's very clean. It's been around forever. Very few, if any, side effects, easy to come off of. And that really helps people that have some borderline tendencies or symptoms where you have a hard slam of your mood and then you have a long time to return to baseline. This helps the slam not be so hard and for you to return to baseline faster. So it's taking the Buspirone. What else? I feel like there's something else in there. My thyroid situation was borderline, so that I felt safe coming off of, and that was really for fatigue, and I haven't been dealing with issues of fatigue. But I'd been on that for a long time too. So anyway, in Mexico, I decided to come off these meds. Oh, gabapentin was another big one. When I was in the military, they refused to give me, I used to have some Xanax that the doctor prescribed me, and I could be on or off it. And I would only usually take 0.5 milligram, and I could use it for every day for a month and then go off of it. And I would, I had a bunch of it at one point because I didn't use it all. But in the military, the VA for some reason wouldn't give it to me. Now I know of other veterans that have gotten not only Xanax, but weed and all these other decent things that help people with PTSD. But as the healthcare system goes, you go in as a woman, and for some reason you don't have the same access. So they put me on gabapentin, and I have a really high tolerance for like everything. So whereas 100 milligrams of gabapentin tend to make someone pass out, go to sleep, whatever, I was at one point taking like so much that it did start to affect my kidneys. And this was long before not long before, but a couple years before they really came down on that. And so they had to back me way off. So I got down to about half dose, which is of what I was taking, which is the maximum dose that you can take. So it was, whereas 100 is a lot for someone, I was taking 1,200 3 or 4 times a day. It was still totally functional. You couldn't, it just made my nervous system calm down. So this is, my baseline is so bad that it took that much. And so coming off of that was horrid. That stuff is dangerous, in the sense that if you ever want to come off of it, it's extremely hard to come off of. And, at one point in my titration, another time that I tried to come off, I almost went into seizures, even though I've never had seizures. It is a seizure medication. So, but they use it off label for nerve issues and, anxiety. So came off all of that in Mexico, and I left mid-April, so May, June, July, so 3.5 months. So right at the point where I got back to baseline, and it's not been great. I was looking back at my pictures, and I was really smiley and happy up until I got to Puerto Viejo. I'm not saying Puerto Viejo was what did it. I'm thinking it was a combination of, I'm no longer having the meds as a support, and that's a crazy sound. And Puerto Viejo was also really intense, not on the positive end of the spectrum for me. So I feel like I haven't really been in a good place since then. So that's been about 2.5 months. And when I say that, what I mean for me personally is a whole lot of existential dread. Why am I here? What's the point of this? I don't want to do this anymore. I would not hurt myself. It's just not something that, it gets to the point where I want to stop doing any of this. I would like for it to be over, but I wouldn't hurt myself. And we have what's called protective factors in something like this, where my biggest protective factor is my daughter and my animals. And they keep me around, and of course then my clients. So dark thoughts is what I call those. And it's not a constant, but it'll get to the point where they're there. I don't like it when they're there at all. And then sometimes it'll be like half the day where I'm just in this state and I can't pull out, and it feels horrible. And then the intrusive thinking, the overthinking, annoyance at the little shits that when I'm on the meds, they don't even register for me. So, I've been thinking about going back on an antidepressant, and, didn't really, of course, then you've got to go through the whole thing around finding a prescriber and all that shit. And maybe you need a specialist, and because I'm in a different country. Thank God though, because I went to the Pharmacia the other day to get some moisturizer and happened to ask, hey, can I get Effexor over the counter? And you can. So, I started my Effexor again 3 days ago, and I'm already, I'm still going through some stuff while I'm adjusting to the medication, but I'm already at a higher, like my baseline is much more comfortable now. Am I thrilled about it? No, but I'm also trying to not judge the situation. I have a brain chemistry that needs some help sometimes. And then coming off at the time that I did, I came off and then went through my journey through Latin America, 5 countries, alone, 4 animals in my car. And then I'm trying to find home. So I don't have a support system, I don't have a community. I'm in these really stressful situations, again, doing it alone and managing care for these animals, which I love. That's my home, but it's a lot. My nervous system is still a bit fried, and I don't think coming off medication right now was the best idea because of that. Like, I never got to recover. And one of the things that I think about when I think about trying to go, if I want to go back to Mexico, is the journey back was so, I keep joking that I'd rather give natural childbirth than go back through that. But a lot of it was the anxiety that came with it. Like, when I'm off of my medications, when I wake up in the morning, there's this surge of anxiety, and it's like nauseating. And that's actually a cortisol dump. That is a natural, normal thing to have happen. But when you are in these heightened states of anxiety, it's bad, of course, for your system. And it's hard to start your day that way. So then, especially if I had the, borders coming up, it would start like 2 mornings before I had a border crossing, and it would just flood my system, and it feels awful. I hate it. So not a great time to come off the meds. Will I try to come off again? Probably, but not until I'm settled. I do believe that I can manage a lot of it with fitness, meditation, that kind of thing, but I don't have the wherewithal right now to make that stuff happen. And that's usually when I'll send a client for meds when the overthinking is too much, to where it's like analysis paralysis. They don't do the things that they need to just get done because they're processing, well, this could happen, this could happen. Like, one of the examples I use is I had a client that she was trying to open up her back porch for the spring, and she didn't want to open the umbrella because the last time she did it, like a wasp or a bat or something flew out. And then we got her on some meds, and she just went out and did it one day without even thinking about it. So that's what I'm talking about, the little shits that don't even register once your gate is closed with some more serotonin. So when I send a client for meds, it's kind of scaffolding, right? We're putting up the scaffolding for you to then build your foundation in a way that's going to be sustainable. And that looks like fitness, community, good sleep, good food. You got to do the things, right? You got to do the routines and all of that. But if you are in a state of depression, you really can't make that stuff happen. So I'm putting my scaffolding back in place. I used to be at the max dosage of Effexor, and that was rough to come off of. I have come off of it twice, and both times it's intense. Not gonna lie. Even when you go very slowly, it's still, you have to brace yourself. But I think we can get through it. So I may have to go through something like that again. But for now, I recognize that I need the support, especially out here doing this by myself. So I'm at the 75 milligram, which is your starter dosage. You really start at 37.5, but they didn't have that dosage. And so I was a little nauseous for the first night, but I'm okay now. So we're getting better there. I'm looking forward to not being in as much of a panic or waking up with that anxiety all the time and not having those dark thoughts. It doesn't mean that you're always skipping and gleeful. It just gives you a state of mind that you're not trying to find an exit. And the dread is a big piece of it too. So anyway, the other thing that I'm currently dealing with is this interesting sciatic pain. And I was starting to do some squats in between sessions and things like that. And then every night before I go to sleep, I do a half lotus pose because I have very closed hips. I can forward fold all the way, but like butterfly and things like that, you're usually one of the two. You can either do forward fold very easily, or you can do butterfly very easily. Either you have open or closed hips, but I would like to have, both. So for years, I've done this half lotus pose. It's kind of, like my body signal that we're going to sleep, but it's also really increased my hip flexibility. So one night a couple of nights ago, I did that on the left side and it zinged. And so now I have this, like, my muscles are spasming in my ass, and then I think it's grabbed onto that nerve. And when I had to go to Tinamaste recently, or not Tinamaste, I went to San Isidro on Friday to take the dogs to the vet for heartworm stuff, and then also get my car looked at, or for an oil change. And oh my God, guys, I'll talk about that in a second. And so I think that it inflamed it even more. I've been taking ibuprofen and my gabapentin because that helps with nerve pain. And some days it works, some days it doesn't. So today I went to the pharmacy again, the Farmacia, and told him what was going on. And he gave me 3 days worth of a muscle relaxer and another nerve pain thing. Didn't have to go to the doctor, guys. You just, it's so nice. It's so reasonable. Because he's not hooking me up with 90 days worth of stuff where I could get addicted, right? He gave me 6 pills of each. So no English required either. We use Google Translate. So that is helping. I'm hoping that, again, I have a monster tolerance, so even more powerful muscle relaxers don't really do much for as far as drowsiness or anything like that. But I do feel like it's not as angry today. But if you've had sciatic or any kind of nerve pain, I used to have one here too. It's awful. It's like, consumes you. So that's been going on also. And then I have another move coming up soon. I'm heading, this is so pretty. You guys got to see this. I'm heading a little further north to the Guanacaste area. Look at that. Oh, wow. Just stunning. I gotta get a picture of that. There we go. Okay. Headed to the Guanacaste area. I love this house. This house is the nicest place I've stayed on my journey. The shower is amazing. And after my experience in Puerto Viejo, the shower thing is very important. But I'm isolated up here still. I mean, I have some neighbors. It's very quiet, but I'm finding that I really want to be able to step out into community. I thought I wanted solitude, and maybe someday I will, but right now, what I had in Puerto Escondido seemed to fit the bill. And going back through my pictures a little bit ago, man, I miss the place, I miss the food, I miss the people. So anyway, my car, that was the other thing that came up. I went to get my oil changed, and of course they need a special oil, a special filter, and then because of my driving, the journey I've been on, I need both a cabin filter and an engine filter. So we're looking at over $600 for the oil change and the filters. I mean, but they had to order, parts. And so I'm going to go back this week to have that done, and she'll be happy to have that. I think her name is Bianca. I think that's what I've come to. I always just call her the Rover, but someone was like, well, what's her name? And I was like, I don't have one. And they're like, you've been on this journey with her and you don't. And so I think her name's Bianca. I do pet her a lot. I love this car, guys. And so I'm happy to get her tuned up. But damn, whew. So, little unexpected there. Also, the dogs went to the vet for, we had to re-up the heartworm meds and all that stuff. So everything got tested, and Dude does have, and it sucks because, I guess it was my fault. He has a tick-borne disease, and God, that hit me like a ton of bricks. We are able to work with it, and I don't know, they wouldn't say that it heals it. It's the one, it starts with an E. So he got a shot, and then we have antibiotics, but the shot messed up his stomach so bad that he's been throwing up mostly just food. It's not bile or foam. and he's kept stuff down now, but I can't get the antibiotics in until that's better. So there was a lapse, like maybe a month in there where heartworm or the prevention meds I didn't come through. And before you start up meds again, you have to go get them tested for heartworms, things like that. And I consider myself a responsible pet owner. I am usually on the ball with that. I think it was a matter of supply, or either I don't know what happened, but I feel like shit about it. But he's fine, and the numbers were really low. It seems like there's antibodies, but it's not an active disease. So we caught it early. But God, he had the little testers, and he said, Charlie's fine. And then, because he called me to the back, and I'm like, and as soon as he pushes dudes forward, I just started bawling, like, ugh. And then for it to be my fault is just, oof. Anyway, so that's where my head has been. It's been a hard couple of weeks. Well, it's been a hard month and a half, maybe even, I don't know. My first month in Puerto Viejo was okay. Little intense, but anyway. So since starting the meds, of course, they take some time. I always tell my clients it's like a brake line. Like you've got to have, you don't want any air bubbles in the brake line. So people, if you do take these kinds of meds, SSRIs, SNRIs, you don't ever want to miss, because that puts a bubble in your brake line and then you're going to crash into something. You want to take your pills consistently at the same time. But then also when you're starting something like this, it takes like 6 weeks before you can say, okay, this is what this medication at this dose is going to do for you. So 3 days in, I wouldn't expect somebody to say, oh, I feel so much better. But I have noticed that my thoughts or my mood, that's, I think what it is a lot steadier. I'm not having these heavy dips that, honestly were a little scary. So I'm okay, guys. Don't worry. I'll get through this. I just wanted to, again, be vulnerable about this journey, about, the whole wherever you go, there you are. Yes, I'm looking for home, but I also need to contend with my own shit. And the depression piece of it is not something that I can necessarily outrun all the time. And I think that, yes, the pharmaceutical companies are evil. And I think that we have the technology there and we should use it if it's appropriate for us. I'm not wanting anybody to numb out. And there's certain I've tried so many different meds. And everybody's chemistry is different, but there are particular ones that'll zombie you out after you plateau and you've been on them for a long time. So we watch for that. I watch for that in myself. I watch for that in my clients. So responsible medication use. And so I'm excited to get back to where I can, have some more lightness and joy in my days. But otherwise, hanging out in this beautiful cabin. And again, just to highlight that just because you're in paradise doesn't mean that everything's perfect. We still have very much the human experience to go through regardless of our environment. So anyway, hope this helps somebody, or at least is a little bit entertaining. All right, I'll check in maybe soon, hopefully.